Hello, and welcome to the Tech Tip on adding bleed to your printed projects. Before showing you how to do it, it's important to establish why. When something is sent to print, and I don't mean the desktop printers, they are put through an industrial process on either a web or sheet-fed press. These are loud, heavy, moving machines. To take a quick detour, I'm going to show rather than tell. Here's a presentation on the web press presented by Sappy Paper. It helps show you what happens when the project leaves your computer. This is your industry. It helps to know these finer details as it informs the design that you do.
The web offset press is designed to create long runs of high-volume publications from a fast-moving continuous paper web. The press consists of four main sections. The webbing up system splices together and loads the reels of paper into the print units. The first four print units print the paper with black, cyan, magenta and yellow ink to form a CMYK half-tone image. The fifth print unit can apply an optional spot colour, varnish or fragrance. The wet inks on the rapidly moving web of paper are dried in the heat-set oven. And finally, the printed paper web is cut and folded in the folding unit. This press is designed to run at high speed, continuously and without stopping, creating over 2.4 million pages of print every hour, 24 hours a day. The webbing up system contains two reel feeds. As the current reel runs through the press operator prepares a new reel of paper, ready to be loaded onto the second feed unit. The webbing up unit monitors the batch identification number and weight of the reel, and the time remaining before the new reel is required. The reel is unwrapped and checked, and the outer windings are discarded in case any damage in transit causes a web break in the press. The operator prepares a splice on the end of the new reel using double-sided tape. The reel then moves automatically into place and is lifted onto the feed unit and aligned. As the current reel nears its end, the splicer unit begins to rotate the new reel up to speed. And as the existing reel comes to an end, the splicer automatically joins the splice to the paper feed and switches the web feed to the second reel. The web of paper continues to feed into the press at up to 15 meters per second with no interruption. Optical sensors and tensioning rollers keep the paper web precisely aligned and at the proper tension as it enters the press. The web offset press prints both sides of the paper simultaneously, and so each of the 5 print units consists of 2 printing couples, one directly above the other and each with a different plate. The 2 blanket rolls press against each other, offsetting the ink from the plates onto opposite sides of the paper web that's rolling between them. This is called blanket-to-blanket printing. The 4-color image, and any optional additional colors, builds on the web of paper as it moves at high speed along the print units. The print units are fed with ink from a central reservoir. In a large printing company, this may feed several presses with a continuous supply of ink. Web offset inks differ from sheet offset inks in that they are heat set by rapid evaporation of mineral oil solvents. This happens in the oven unit, where hot air blows across the paper surface, evaporating the solvents in the ink. The paper must remain in the oven for at least 1 second in order for the inks to dry properly. If the press operates at a printing speed of 15 meters per second, the oven needs to be at least 15 meters long. The oven consists of several compartments, each with a different temperature. Usually the first compartment has the highest temperature, with each following compartment set gradually lower. The final temperature of the web as it leaves the oven is over 100 degrees Celsius. The web passes around a series of chill rollers which cool the paper and ink down to around 25 degrees Celsius. This sudden temperature drop stabilizes the ink and makes it tough enough to endure the forces applied during cutting and folding. A silicone water mixture is then applied to both sides of the paper web. This protects the surface of the ink, producing a smoother surface and preventing the ink from smearing on the folder unit. The paper web is many pages wide and must be cut and folded to the correct size for each publication. The folding unit can be formatted to create many different folding and pagination variants, depending on the size and layout of the finished publication. Rotating knives cut the web into different streams, which fold onto each other. The turner bars use a compressed air cushion to prevent damage to the printed image. The folded sheaf containing the different pages is cut to page length as it leaves the press. Books and magazines are generally printed and bound in sets of 8, 16, 32 or more DIN A4 size pages called signatures. These signatures are laid out partially overlapping on a conveyor belt, which transports them away from the press. All calibration adjustments to the printed image have to be made while the web is running at high speed through the press. Automatic camera systems continuously scan the printed image. And closed-loop control systems monitor and control the color register, ink density and print quality as the press is running. The operators check sample signatures at regular intervals during the run and can fine-tune the press if required. A high-speed web press like this creates 2,000 16-page signatures during every minute of operation. Several different signatures, together with laminated or board cover pages, may need to be combined to create all the pages of the finished magazine or brochure.
For this video, we're going to explore adding bleed to the 3 main software packages you will be using: InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop. Let's start with InDesign. We're going to open up a magazine article layout we've used in a couple of the tech tips now and show how you can add bleed. At first, I need to take it off the preview view so that we can see all the guides and rules. Now, if you wanted to start it from the very beginning, when you start a new document, you hit New and choose whatever size of paper that you want or whatever size the project's going to be. And then you'll see along the right side near the bottom, you'll have the bleed and slug information. And that is where you'll put in 1/8 of an inch or 0.125 inches. And if you notice, no matter what unit of measurement you use, InDesign makes the translation for you. So when you do that, it brings up the guides, but that doesn't mean there's bleed in the document. You have to do a little bit more, as I'll show you now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I show you that we're sitting here at the 0 position at the top left. I'm going to come in here and add our bleed at 1.125 inches, which is an eighth of an inch. And here we have our red guide. Now that says that anything that comes to the very edge of the page has to be extended an eighth of an inch beyond. That's to accommodate the moving of the press so that you don't have the white line along the side when you go to print. There we go. Now you don't need to add bleed towards the middle, which is where the two pages meet, only towards the outside. And that's to make sure that your image appears continual. We can also do it by just adjusting the measurement itself. Again, work smart, not hard. So you can put the measurements itself into InDesign. Our X and Y position, we want a minus 0.125 inches, but we need to add a quarter of an inch to the width and the height to make sure that it bleeds on all four sides. Now, if you notice, this is how you can be mathematically correct and not necessarily just using the method of eyeballing it. Now, when I say 0.125 or an eighth of an inch, that is minimum. Of course, you can go much, much further. But that is what they want, or said as the industry standard, to make sure that your object can print correctly. The important thing to note is that the press is going to add the bleed whether you want it or not. So even if you send things in to the exact size without the bleed, they will enlarge the document by about 108% to add the bleed themselves. That may encroach on some of your type, etc. So that's why you want to go ahead and add it for yourself. Moving on to Illustrator. You will see the process is pretty much the same as InDesign. Let's start with our Illustrator document. I've gone ahead and created a few boxes here. One of the boxes obviously kind of nudges up against the edge, as you can see by the 0 point at the top left. And just like InDesign, if we were to start new, you can add the bleed information here from the very beginning, 0.125 inches. And you'll want to use, anytime the measurement is different, you'll want to use the inch symbol so it does the translation. And there we have our guide. So all we have to do is take this blue box, extend it our eighth of an inch, or tons further as it wanted to go, and there you have bleed for an Illustrator document all ready to go. Photoshop handles bleed much differently, mostly because it was never intended to be a publishing tool. I will show you. So let's pretend this is the image. This is our canvas, our photo that we need. And this is the exact size, but we need to add bleed to it. If you notice on the right, Photoshop does not have a placement to add the bleed. So what you have to do is you have to add it to the canvas. You'll do the canvas size, make sure the orientation is in the very middle, and add a quarter of an inch to both the width and the height. And that's because both sides of the width and both sides of the height, four sides, needs an eighth of an inch. So we're going to hit OK. And you will see that it has created the blank space. Now, on my color picker, I have a background color of the blue, just so that we can see where the border is. I would suggest as a rule of thumb to bring up the rulers and bring guides from all sides to show what truly the edge of your canvas is. Working without the edge or the bleed area in Photoshop can sometimes be a little bit deceiving, and we think we have the whole canvas to work with. So having the guides there will help you make sure that none of your important information goes beyond the trim itself. Now, the important thing to remember, of course, to be able to make sure the image goes beyond the bleed, because we need to enlarge it here. So we're going to go ahead and create or unlock the layer. And then it's a matter of we come in and just scale the image so that it goes at least to the bleed area, as you see here. Again, it's the same thing that if your bleed is not added into the Photoshop document, they will add it and they will enlarge your document itself. So if you have anything close to the edge, there's a good chance that you will lose it. But this is the best way to work with Photoshop. We hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to add bleed. Of course, if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you.